best friend.
And you're mine too, Todd.
And we'll always be friends forever, won't we?
Yeah, forever.
At long last, here's part 3 of The Fox and the Hound is a perfect movie. It's been far too long since I touched upon this series, and a lot has changed since the last part was uploaded, oh dear, back in August. Yeah, it's definitely time for part 3, alright. Needless to say, if you haven't seen the first 2 parts, go check them out before you watch this one. So in this part we're heading into the scenes that get a lot more serious and the plot enters its second act. Now I began this series at the very start of this channel when I didn't have the graphics that I have now, so to keep this series consistent I'm going to head back to the old style with the basic transitional slides and my old name. Who knows, maybe I'll end up editing this series into one video in the future with new transitional slides. Still though, it'll be cool to go back to this old style and I'm kinda looking forward to it actually. Anyway, let's get on with it. As winter draws near, Dinky, Boomer and Squeak struggle to keep warm, but this doesn't stop them getting up to their old antics again. Squeak sneaks his way into Tweed's house to avoid a catch attempt by Dinky and Boomer, and the two birds decide to fly south for the winter and vow to get Squeaks when they come back. All the while Todd gazes out of the window of Tweed's house waiting for Copper to return. Even though Dinky and Boomer are freezing their beaks off, the desire to catch Squeak still remains. The pair waste no time going for him immediately after getting a glimpse of him sneaking away into the snow, Squeaks himself also feeling the chill. It's almost like an adrenaline rush where for a brief moment, they forget that they are in fact cold. The silly antics of Dinky and Boomer still are brought forward, Boomer comically mistaking Dinky's foot for Squeak's and knocking him out of the way to peer through the keyhole of Tweed's house. As well as this, Boomer demonstrates his slow means of gaining flight, struggling to gain lift both times when he flies, another example of his clumsy nature. Dinky still shows his strong desire to catch Squeaks, vowing firmly that they will get him when they come back, no matter how long they're gone for. They're not going to let Squeaks get off easy. Squeaks also shows the joy being in the warmth, comically using a sock as a makeshift duvet cover. In the brief glimpse of Todd, we see that he's grown bigger again, indicating some time has passed since the last conversation he had with Big Mama. He watches the snow-covered barrels belonging to Copper and Chief just like how any child does when they are eager for a friend to return, hoping that just maybe he'll see signs of his best friend. The worried look on Todd's face also tells us that the last words spoken to him by Big Mama are circling in his mind with the fear that they could be true. A brief scene, very brief in fact, but one that still displays the nature of the characters and bridges us nicely into what comes next. For as short as this scene is, it really does deliver a lot. Dinky and Boomer again somehow manage to sneak their antics in, with Dinky still firmly the brains with strong desires and Boomer the brawn with naivety. It's a good way to remind us of what these two are all about and showing that there's a little more to come. I really like that they snap out of the shivering the moment they see Squeaks, really showing how much they want to catch him. And speaking of Squeaks, he gets some good moments like when he tries to hide inside the snow mound and warming himself by the fire. The highlight is definitely Todd looking out of the window, because you can just see from his face alone that he wants Copper to come home so they can play again. He's really formed such a good connection with him, and the falling snow adds a little bit of sadness to this moment. I also like that Todd is growing bigger as well, going into teenage years of some kind. His appearance is all that's needed to show the time skip that's occurred. This is a cool little scene that serves as a good transitional period into the next act of the movie, and oh boy, things are only going to get better from here. Out in the wild, Amos, Chief and Copper are on their hunting trip. Copper starts off with no knowledge of hunting, but he slowly starts to gain experience. All the while time moves on and turns him into a full-grown hunting dog, and with this new gained knowledge and experience, he has earned the right to sit up front with Amos, something Chief doesn't appreciate. The journey of becoming a hunting dog is one of learning for Copper, which takes place over a period of several months. As he begins to transcend through the snow for the first time, his lack of knowledge and general clumsiness causes him to mess up. He falls through the snow and slips on the ice to the annoyance of Chief, showing that the older dog still finds Copper's antics eye-rollingly frustrating. Both of these events happen while Copper is still in the stages of growing up. The snowfall while he is still a young and naive pup, and the ice slip while he is entering teenage years. The time-lapse is accompanied by brief shots of the cabin Amos, Chief and Copper are staying in during the trip, the second one notably featuring a few carcasses strung outside, indicating that a lot of work has been done. Chief's role to Copper slowly changes with each new stage of Copper's development. He physically carries him through the snow, shakes his head at him slipping on the ice, and refuses to follow the scent that Copper has tracked, indicating that he is unwilling to accept that the scenario has now changed. Chief's refusal, however, was a mistake on his part, as Copper's nose, never having failed to let him down, succeeds in finding a flock of birds hidden in a snow-covered bush that Amos promptly fires at. At the end of it all, Copper's hard work has paid off, and he has earned the spot in the front seat which he will ride all the way back home, something that Chief mentioned to him before they left home originally. I can honestly say that I really like this scene. First off, the snowy forest atmosphere is absolutely beautiful. I'm really happy that snow managed to get a presence in the movie. It reminds me a lot of Bambi a little bit during that scene when Bambi finds out his mother is no more. It's very cool seeing Amos doing his hunting in a more casual way, as of course it is a hobby and something he's passionate about. I know the topic of hunting can be quite divisive, but just judging on it from the movie's point of view, Amos definitely isn't malicious in his approach, unlike when he was going after Todd earlier in the movie. Of course, the scene's main focus is on Copper's growth and development as he's slowly moulded into what Amos wants him to be. Copper's progress from young and clumsy to mature and experienced is executed really well without any dialogue and just simple visuals. I really like how his theme is kept and it's remixed into a more powerful and proud variation, also emphasising his growth. I also really like Chief's shift from mentor and teacher to the one that gets outdone at every opportunity, as it ends up being Copper that's the one that helps Amos most of the time. It seems as though Chief's jealousy has remained a part of him ever since Copper arrived. It was present in Copper's intro, and now it's present here too. Great continuity there. And of course, Chief's envy just grows even more when Copper ends up in the front seat for the journey back. It's almost like Chief was just throwing that previous statement out there and didn't actually expect it to become a reality. This is honestly a really nice scene. I would have loved a little more time spent on it, but this montage is still nice enough. It's great for it to get across a long stretch of time in a short amount of time, if that makes sense. Still, I appreciate the movie sticking to its roots by showing us time jumps visually instead of telling us. On the subject of the time jumps, I really like the shots of the cabin at night with the light on through the window while the snow is blowing outside. It feels quite relaxing and a bit mysterious too. So Copper's been bred into his purpose and is about to return home. What will happen when he reunites with Todd? The seasons have changed Copper, and the same rings true for Todd as he's now matured into adulthood too, much to the delight of Big Mama, the skepticism of Dinky, and the shock of Boomer. Despite being older and bigger, Todd is much the same as he was in his youth, meaning the group's reunited moment is one of joy and love. However, Dinky and Boomer don't stick around for long and continue their pursuit of Squeaks. This time, however, things get a bit more dangerous. Though the moment of the group reuniting is short-lived, it manages to convey a lot. Big Mama expresses her happiness at seeing Dinky and Boomer return, showing how much she cares for them and that their absence was definitely felt. Todd's personality is still much the same, keeping the same charisma he had when he was younger. His growth is supported by the presence of a new collar gifted to him by Tweed, showing that he's truly part of her family well at this point now. The four of them still share some light-hearted fun between them, emphasising their bond even more, especially the friendly teasing Dinky and Boomer show to Todd. They still even call him Kid, showing that they still see him as such. As well as this, Big Mama and Todd share a cute moment when Big Mama accidentally drops a batch of leaves onto Todd, leading to him laughing in amusement, understanding it wasn't intentional. Back to the old antics of the birds and Squeaks though, they continue their slapstick nature, Squeaks especially getting in on the action, perhaps more so than before. He sneezes his way up the drain pipe after getting water poured onto him by Tweed, who was merely taking care of her plant that he just so happened to be resting in all winter. While Dinky is still determined, he doesn't have all the attention here. that instead going to Boomer. Boomer still displays his inability to think things through before executing a plan, relentlessly battering away at the metal drain pipe, the vibrations of which causing Dinky to stumble back dazed, and miscommunication between the pair. Just like before, Boomer's weakness of his lack of thinking leads to results that are disastrous, or rather dangerous in this instance. Boomer carelessly pecks away at a conductor on top of a pylon which is enclosed in glass, which Squeaks is hiding in, and the resulting pecking leads to him and Dinky being shocked violently, and Squeaks somehow survives, seemingly having conducted the electricity as he flashes away on the wire, keeping the slapstick that this movie likes to present at times. Now earlier we mentioned that the time period of the movie is shown through the appearance of the cars, and that there's one other aspect that rules out the 1920s and onward, and here is that aspect. While electricity is present clearly in this scene, it isn't used in the houses. We saw in the hunting scene that the cabin's light is provided by gas lanterns, and this will be seen again not too far down the line. This scene manages to cram two elements that have been presented to us thus far, and while there is no building off of them in this case, it still reminds us of these characters, their personalities, and what they're offering to the story. Not a bad scene honestly. It really helps bridge us into the next act that will be coming up shortly. Even though we only see Todd as an adult briefly here, we can tell that he's pretty much the same and hasn't changed one bit. Tweed's raising of him has paid off in a positive way, and I really like his mannerisms and speaking here. It's very nice, I'll say. I like that he's been given a collar, really signalling and displaying that he's truly a domesticated pet now after having been brought up this way. The fun conversation he has with Big Mama, Dinky and Boomer is really warming. There's really a lot of care between this group, and we're really connecting with it after having seen it blossom all the way from the beginning of the movie. I also really like the music that plays when Big Mama drops the leaves onto Todd. It sounds so wonderful and charming.
Well, look who's here. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, Todd, honey.
If I do have a slight criticism here though, it'd be that there wasn't any time spent on Todd during Copper's absence. It would have been nice to see him growing over time all the same like Copper did, but it's not too big of a deal honestly. If anything, I think it serves as a nice surprise to see Todd grown up. Since we watched Copper grow, we're sort of kept in suspense at what Todd will look like. Staying on Todd, with his new size comes a new voice, and I'll say Mickey Rooney is fantastic. He gives Todd such a bubbly, youthful voice, and his speaking tone matches perfectly with Keith Coogan's and how he voiced Todd in his youth. He still has the same speaking patterns and everything, really good attention to detail there, showing that Todd really hasn't changed one bit and makes us still love him all the same. Into the second half of the scene, Dinky and Boomer are there for their antics with Squeaks as usual, and while I don't find them to be as good as the chase in the tree, it is still fun and a good way to keep them both front and centre and touching on their subplot. The whole ordeal with the drain pipe and the electric pylon is almost like foreshadowing, and what I mean by that is the antics are getting more violent, and it's kind of getting us into that mood, as of course we're going to be dealing with a lot more extreme cases of it, not played for laughs like it is here. Wow, I suddenly went serious, didn't I? Just like the movie in fact, so it's fitting. There isn't too much to analyse or deconstruct here, but it's a good scene as I said, does its job well, and is slowly preparing us for what's coming up next. Speaking of, Amos, Chief and Copper return home from their hunting trip, and despite the warnings from Big Mama, Todd opts to go and pay his old friend a visit. Before he shows up though, Copper and Chief have their first proper conversation since before they left, giving us a new layer to their relationship. The journey back home shows that Copper's long lessons in hunting have paid off as he proudly sits up front with Amos, like Chief had promised he could do if he earned it, which he certainly has. Chief feels dejected at being replaced, but Amos still shows his care for him. After all, he's his longest friend, even thanking Chief for playing his part in helping Copper blossom into the hunting dog Amos knew he could be. He happily includes both of them in the conversation, referring to both of them as the best hunting dogs a hunter like him could ask for, and Amos proudly howls alongside Copper in an almost self-rewarding way. He should be proud of his teaching, no doubt. Meanwhile, Todd is ecstatic at Copper's long-awaited return, expressing his surprise at how big he's grown. A lot of time has certainly passed. As well as being surprised, Todd also expresses how proud he is that Copper has grown big and strong, and is visibly exuding confidence. Since the last time he saw him, he was small and a little more confined to his shell than he was when he was the same size. Unlike Todd, however, Big Mama is audibly and visibly worried as the time of her words is drawing ever near. She even subtly warns Todd by pointing out the skins Copper has collected during his absence, and that Todd is in the same category as those medals of honour. The medals for Copper, that is, no one else. Todd, showing that his personality did not change despite his size suggesting otherwise, still is defiant and confident in his statement that Copper will be happy to see him. That night, Chief is still not happy with how Copper took his spot up front, or while he sleeps in his barrel that is still damaged from when he chased Todd in what is now far in the past. Copper, now much bigger, no longer has to peer inside the dog bowl to take a drink, instead he's able to do it no problem. This also shows the scale of Copper and just how big he truly has gotten over the course of the hunting trip. Just like Todd, Copper also has a collar now, branded in a navy blue colour, signifying his strong position as a now fully experienced hunting dog. Copper still displays his traits he had in his youth, wanting to playfully wrestle with Chief, who still wants none of it, and in fact he's rather critical of how Copper is handling himself. He declares that Copper's more laid-back approach to hunting was more of a problem, and that thinking nasty is the way to go instead of just the basics like tracking and hunting. Copper respectfully disagrees, saying that he did a great job tracking and almost brushes off Chief's rather stern and serious comment about thinking nasty. This shows that perhaps the two of them have different methods of hunting and their mentality towards the activity is different. Chief takes it seriously like a job, while Copper sees it as more of a laid-back hobby. Neither approach to the activity is wrong, but would one method cause more harm than the other later down the line? Okay, there's a few bits to unpack here. First off, the scene where the hunting trio return. It delivers a lot. Chief's envy is still present as it was when Copper first arrived, showing that not much has changed with him over the long period, and if anything, it just highlights his connection with Amos even more. He still wants to feel like Amos's true sidekick and friend, but since Copper is now here, that has changed significantly. It's great seeing Amos being happy, honestly. He really isn't an evil person at all, he's just someone that loves his dogs. I won't mention much more about him here as I'll say that for a bit later when he gets more layers added to his character. Finally, Copper. He has definitely changed a lot. Gone is his clumsiness and naivety, and now he's self-aware and alert. Honestly, this isn't just a result of him taking the lessons on board, but it also shows that Amos and Chief have been great mentors to him and have really gone the extra mile to help him. That's really nice. There's a brief song here, and by brief I mean exactly that. It's about 20 seconds of singing from Amos, and it could probably be classed as more of a jingle. A hunting man, as it's called, is just a classic southern rhyme, nothing much to say really. I like it, and I'm glad it was included. It adds a lot to the scene. Sticking with the return, the conversation with Todd and Big Mama has a serious undertone. Todd's still as confident as he was while Big Mama subtly warns him. It's quite a mature conversation actually. Like Big Mama is telling Todd the reality without actually telling him, if you get what I mean. I do really like the cut from Todd being impressed with Copper's size to Copper sitting proudly in the front of Amos's car. That's a really good shot. On to the last little bit with Chief and Copper. Again, like Todd and Big Mama's conversation, this one is really mature too. I like that Copper has grown wiser but still has hints of his childhood traits in there too. Chief telling Copper to think nasty also sort of shifts the mood a little bit. It's actually almost the same as Big Mama now that I think about it more. Chief is telling Copper the reality without actually telling him, but Chief is a little more blunt with his statement. That's a really good contrast between the two scenes back to back and really ties them together more. Great storytelling. As for Copper's new voice alongside his growth, Kurt Russell does a fine job. He gives a youthful adult voice much like Mickey did for Todd, though he doesn't retain the same speaking patterns as Corey Feldman's young Copper, showing that he is a lot more mature now having been brought up the way he has been. He's being moulded much differently to Todd. Okay, things are starting to slowly turn more serious. We may need to worry about what's coming. The moment of reuniting finally comes as Todd and Copper meet for the first time since they were children. Sadly, the words of Big Mama end up coming true as Copper indeed states to Todd that the days of fun are over and things are now serious. Unfortunately for Todd, the commotion of he and Copper's conversation awakens Chief, and Amos sends him and Copper after Todd. While Copper decides to spare Todd and let him escape, the fox still runs into Chief. A chase across the bridge ends with Chief getting smashed by an oncoming train, falling off the bridge and being severely injured in the process. One key moment that stands out happens right at the start. Copper senses Todd is nearby just by catching his scent while Todd slowly appears from around the bushes, in much the same way he did when he visited Copper and saw him tied to his barrel during their youth, signalling once again that Todd's changes into adulthood are in fact minimal. The body movements, facial expressions and voice tone of Todd speak volumes of what he's thinking. While he's eager to see Copper again, it's clear that the words of Big Mama are circling around in his head. They've been in the back of his mind the whole time since she said them, and while there's no proof of it, perhaps his heart is pumping ever faster. He's about to find out for real. The pair respectfully compliment each other on how much they've grown, almost like they're proud of the other on how far they've come. Copper, while just as happy to see Todd all the same, quickly changes the tune just like that, warning Todd that he shouldn't be here and he's going to get them into trouble. After all, look what happened the last time the pair were together in this location. It's clear that Todd's curiosity, an ever-present characteristic of his from the start, is still present here. He wanted to see how Copper would react when he saw him again. He just couldn't leave that thought alone. It's then when Todd gets the confidence to ask the crucial question, the one that's been on his mind for months on end: are he and Copper still friends? Copper's reply speaks the truth of Big Mama. Times have changed. Both have grown and gone different paths. They can't play anymore. Copper is a hunting dog. He has duties to perform for Amos now. Right here is the moment when Todd's heart shatters. But we know Todd has a heart of gold, so it doesn't shatter, rather it melts. He's now forced to accept this new error. It's all real now. Big Mama was right. He was confident in himself that things would stay the same, and the face he makes when the reality sets in is the same one he made earlier when Big Mama warned him of the same reality. Copper still cares about Todd despite this though. He tells him to get out of here before Chief wakes up, reminding Todd once again what happened last time. Copper still wants to protect Todd just like he did when they were younger. But Todd's static characteristics don't budge an inch. He still declares Chief doesn't worry him, just like he said when he was a child. But like before, Todd's presence is enough to awaken Chief and send him into a rage. Seems as though Todd, despite growing up, has failed to learn from his mistakes. Once again, Todd's curiosity has resulted in dire consequences. This is now the third time this has happened, each occurrence getting progressively worse. It's also the third time he's found himself in a position where he could lose his life, and once again he needs to save himself. Todd's been chased by Chief before, so he knows how to outsmart him, using all the same tactics and body movements that he can do without thinking, but Chief's able to still keep up with him like he was before. Unlike the last chase though, there's no comedy and slapstick. Those days are gone, and things are now serious. Even the music shows us this. Todd climbs up to heights he's never seen, and lurking in the background hidden in the mist is a wooden bridge. This feels familiar somehow, high up in the rocks with a bridge behind. That's what we saw in the opening. We're returning to familiar grounds. Todd eventually hides away from Chief, but he's forgotten that he's not alone this time. In another throwback, Copper sniffs out a hiding Todd, but he's not too happy to see him this time, and nor is the sudden surprise of seeing Copper something that Todd finds amusing. In spite of his instructions, Copper still isn't willing to see his friend get hurt, so in a moment that shows his heart is still in the right place, he lures Amos away and lets Todd escape. Amos having joined the chase as Todd showed up on his property, owing to his vow that he made earlier on. Copper even lets out a big hound dog howl after tracking Todd's scent, exactly what he did and explained to Todd in their youth. It's now a straight line sprint for Todd to save himself, no obstacles to stop him, he just has to get home and he's safe. The only problem is the straight line isn't one way, and Todd hasn't had the best record in making decisions. They usually end up in disaster. Here it proves to be the same as Chief is there waiting for him. Todd had a 50-50 chance, and unfortunately for him, he made the wrong choice. The circumstances only get worse as this bridge is still very much in use despite what its appearance suggests. A locomotive hooked up to several carriages to form a train barrels down in the opposite direction right towards Todd and Chief. It's a common phrase to use freight train as something that's unstoppable. While this one isn't carrying freight, it's still got the weight. Todd's entire means of surviving has been based on his ability to make quick thinking decisions, and he has to do it again, otherwise he's finished, and he manages to squeeze into a tight gap underneath the rails and sleepers. He's safe, but Chief's still there. Meanwhile down below, Amos is there watching this unfold. His anger towards Todd has pushed him even higher. He followed Chief and Copper all the way up. He led them both to the present which they were destined, and now he has to follow them. He missed Todd a few times with his weapon and constantly bellowed out not to lose him several times. He is hell-bent on making Todd pay. Amos now has to watch in horror as several tons of solid steel are barreling towards his longtime friend, a friendship that has likely spanned decades. He calls out in desperate hope for Chief to make the jump. That's the only way he can be saved. But the pleas come too late, and Chief is tragically struck. He plummets down into the water below, hitting the rocks on the way down. But it isn't Amos that rushes to him, it's Copper. After all, Chief was his mentor. Amos did have a hand in moulding Copper, but it was Chief that he took most of the cues from. There was only one cause for this. one reason why Chief is severely injured. That reason is on top of the bridge. Todd, who, now in Copper's eyes, is a shadow of who he used to be. Literally. The friendship was straining during that earlier interaction, and this was the final nail in the coffin. Copper declares that he's going to make Todd pay if it's the last thing he does. Those words ended the friendship in an instant. I did say at the start to remember that bridge in the background because it would be significant. Well, it certainly was significant, was it not? Wow, wow, wow. A lot to talk about here. The scene with Todd and Copper interacting for the first time as adults is incredibly well done. The whole thing is essentially a remixed, if that's the right word, version of the earlier scene when they were children in the same location. You have Todd appearing out from the bushes eager to see Copper, Copper telling Todd to stay away in order to protect him, Chief waking up and chasing Todd, and Amos coming out of his house with his shotgun. It's literally scene for scene. Albeit this time there are much more mature themes, it's much darker and it's much more serious, and boy do I love it. Immediately the atmosphere is great, the intense night feeling puts the characters on edge, there's no music and it's just the natural ambience. This movie's done a lot of that and I really like it so much. Todd is absolutely a star here. We can just tell the words of Big Mama are going round and round in his mind, and he's stuttering through his words and quivering because he's just so nervous that he's about to know if what she said is real or not. The face he makes when Copper tells him that the old days are over is just so devastating, and it's just another characteristic of his that hasn't changed. He really is just that same charismatic fox he was in his youth, though he's not cheeky and mischievous now obviously. As for Copper, it's quite intimidating seeing him like this honestly. He was a naive, clumsy, but still mischievous in his own right puppy, but now after being moulded into what Amos always wanted him to be, he's basically seeing life much differently. He's falling into societal expectations if I can be blunt with that statement. Also, look at his eyes, they have a dark shadow behind them, almost a subtle way of saying that his light youthful appearance is gone. Now the chase, yeah, it's amazing. The music is phenomenal and the atmosphere again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's so good with Todd zipping through narrow natural alleys of the forest and Chief chasing him through the darkness. Amos doesn't really do a whole lot here, but his presence is fantastic. I particularly like how he slowly makes his way up the rocks while Chief and Copper are sprinting up. It really makes him look like the big bad that's always lurking. Of course he is the big bad because he's the main antagonist. He's also keeping true to his word about saying he'll blast Todd if he sees him on his property again, something he was firmly set on doing. I also really love the callback to the opening with the wooden bridge and how it's shrouded in mist behind the rocks. It really shows that the opening didn't happen too far from where this is happening. I will say as well, I like the look of the train, even though we didn't really see it, it's just another one of those classic vehicles that I love the look of, and really just shows us the time period of this movie once again. I do appreciate the scene with Copper finding Todd under the woodpile and then howling after tracking him, something the pair talked about and did during their youth. Another great callback there. Now, I know there's a little bit, shall I say, controversy around Chief being hit by the train, but I think I'll wait a little before I cover it and give my opinion on it. You all know what it is, and don't worry, I'm gonna explain it when it's time. It's really sad that happened to Chief. He wasn't a horrible personality and he definitely didn't deserve that, made even worse by it being a complete accident. Once again, Todd's curiosity led to unfortunate events, the worst one yet. And Copper, man, I feel really bad for him. It feels like this is all on him since he let Todd go, and if he hadn't, Chief wouldn't have gotten hurt. Also, Amos's anger and motives might have rubbed off on Copper. He's now vowing revenge on Todd just like his master. And need I say more about the final line he speaks? Just so crushing. I also forgot to mention Tweed briefly appears. A cameo does add a lot to this chase honestly, and I'm glad it was included. Not much else to say other than that. Alright, wow, that was a long covering of that scene, but that's a good thing I'll say. It shows that there was a lot of layers to it and that ultimately I have a lot of opinions. But now we need to see the fallout of this, and I don't think it's going to be pleasant. Copper, furious that he let this happen to Chief, vows to get revenge on Todd. Amos, equally as furious, tells Tweed that Todd can't be locked up forever, a fact that she sadly agrees with. Understanding that Todd is no longer safe with her, Tweed takes Todd out into the game preserve, all the while she reminisces in her mind on the happy times the pair had. She eventually drops him off in the forest and gives a tearful goodbye, leaving Todd all alone to fend for himself in this new environment. Right off the bat as Amos storms out of his house, the music kicks in with it. matching his angry footsteps as he stomps over to Tweed's house. The bird trio are nearby to witness this, showing that they're always keeping close to wherever Todd is and making sure he's safe, and Dinky only needs to see Amos walking over to where he is to know that there's trouble brewing. He knows all too well, because he and Boomer were almost harmed by Amos back then. Meanwhile, Copper blames himself for what happened to Chief, and his face changes immediately from feeling upset to anger, really beating himself up verbally for letting Todd go. We see that Todd is safely inside with Tweed, who made her way out into the woods to find him after the incident. Once again, the only light being offered inside the house is from the lanterns. Todd is the one to sense Amos' presence first on account of his better sense of hearing, but also because he recognises the sounds of Amos' footsteps, his thick sole boots that he always wears producing a heavy thumping sound. Amos' anger is at his boiling point as he pounds on Tweed's door and immediately demands to know where Todd is. Well, he already knows he's in there because he's become familiar with Todd's habitat. Tweed, however, still stands her ground and doesn't allow Amos to push her around or push her out of the way to get into her house. She's able to put Amos in his place just like before. He isn't allowed to come into her property uninvited, no matter what his anger suggests. Amos, raging more than ever in his voice, tells Tweed that Todd nearly killed Chief, laying down that he's not the sweetheart she thinks he is, and he venomously says he's going to get him because he can't be locked up forever. It's here where we see the mask of Tweed finally slip away. She may have told Amos off and shooed him away, but she can't deny that his words are right, and this realisation finally hits her. She's tried to ignore it for so long, but now it's at the point where she has to confront the truth. She may have raised Todd from youth, but he's still a fox, a wild animal, and the nature of his being that he was given means he needs to be where he belongs. The following morning, Tweed silently takes Todd to her car, the very same one she had used when Todd was in danger under her ownership. Before she does this, we see a photo of Todd celebrating his birthday with a cake. Just like a happy child, Tweed made that cake for him and took that photograph, in black and white by the way, showing the time period once again. She even cradled him like a baby on the way to the car. Todd is smiling when he wakes up and when he's driven away. Perhaps Tweed is taking him for a long ride through the woods, wanting to spend more time with him. All the while though, Amos lurks in his garden across the road, doing a double take as he watches Tweed drive away. A thought has definitely crossed his mind. Even Copper looks as well. While Todd takes a trip through the long stretch of green trees and grass, we take a trip into the mind of Tweed. The thoughts go round in her head, starting from the very beginning. Her and Todd met such a short time ago. His sadness led to their happiness growing because Todd looked at Tweed needing her so, and she realised she needed him too. They used to play together and keep warm by the fire when the rain poured. There was a lot that happened during that long period. Now they're both alone, and Tweed has to say goodbye and farewell, because it's the end forever. But Todd is still a memory in her heart, and he'll always stay there. As these thoughts of Tweed are made audible for us to hear, she does her best to keep a smile, and this means Todd smiles too. He gazes at the landscape and scuttles around in the car, and if there was any proof that he and Tweed have truly formed a special bond, Todd's face slowly changing from smiling to upset says it all. He can sense that something isn't right. He's learned to read the facial expressions of others. He's familiar with human behaviour since that was how he was raised. Todd knows Tweed is upset, but he doesn't know why. There's a mix of sadness and confusion in his face and body language. He's taken further and further out, away from the farm and into the game preserve from whence he came. So this is where that long path led, which we didn't see before because Amos put a stop to Tweed. She finds a stop deep into the preserve and sets Todd down, taking off his cord to signify that he is no longer hers. But Todd can't help but still smile and give her a lick. That attitude of his is still there, but Tweed must accept that reality that she won't be able to enjoy that attitude of his anymore. She has to tell Todd not to follow her when he tries to, signalling only with a hand gesture after she gave him a farewell hug. A choir of Tweed's thoughts chimes in as she slowly makes her way back to the car, with Todd sitting in the game preserve with no collar. Tweed's had a strong heart all this time. She's shown the strongest of emotions, but now this moment is enough to cause the tears to run. She knew Todd from the beginning, raised him well, and moulded him into what he ultimately was, a good soul just like her. Todd can only watch as his childhood disappears into the mist. The place he grew up on, the friends he made, and the mother he had, they're all far away now. He's in an unfamiliar territory, one he cannot thrive in. He's all alone, which he would have been if his mother hadn't sprinted all that way out to the farm before meeting her demise. If she'd have met her demise just a little bit earlier, Todd would have been alone. It shows that idea and scenario was always lurking behind Todd. No matter how far he got, it found its way back to him. Well, this scene really has a lot going for it. I'll quickly point out the part at the beginning where the birds see Amos stomping over to Tweed's. I like the darker shading that they're given in tandem with the nighttime setting, particularly the dark yellow on Dinky. Shame we only see the shading for the birds once. I really like how Tweed is still able to stand up to Amos, who's now entering even more dangerous areas with his anger. He's really getting pushed further and further over the edge. I like the detail of Todd hearing Amos coming before Tweed does, showing his better sense of hearing, and also that he's able to get that gut feeling about something not being right. That's really cool. Tweed has stayed really strong throughout the whole movie, but now all the emotions catch up to her. I think it's really clever and almost mature that it was Amos's words that caused her to make the decision that she needs to let Todd go after ignoring it for so long. Also, just look at that photo of Todd with a birthday cake. Tweed loved him so much. He's even licking his lips. I really like the long slow drive through the woods that Tweed and Todd take, just being able to take in the wonderful scenery and listening to the sad music in the background. Amazing choice as well to have Tweed's thoughts being audibly voiced from her mind, showing that she's taking as much time as she can to hold this last moment with Todd, all while she's doing her best to stay looking happy. Of course, Todd is a star here too as usual. The way he moves around and smiles at Tweed and the outside is just so wholesome. Again, he really hasn't changed one bit. I know I keep repeating that. The best part has to be when his face slowly changes from that smile to that sad frown. He's finally sensed Tweed's sadness and he's comforting her. Again, that connection is just there without anything vocal needing to be spoken. The whole sequence is just amazing and I could praise it all day long, honestly. I like that part just before the drive when Amos watches Tweed leave. You can tell what's going on in his mind, and there's even that blink and you miss it moment where Copper looks as well. I wonder how many caught that. Of course, it all ends with that crucial moment when Tweed says goodbye, taking off Todd's collar and leaving him in the woods, a gesture done not only because he needs to be there, but she also wants to keep him safe, and this is the only and right thing to do. And Todd's faces are amazing again. He starts off smiling, but then the realization sets in and his face just goes through all the stages at once. Just incredible. Look at how he even tried to follow Tweed. That's just so wholesome and crushing at the same time. And wow, Tweed shedding tears. I don't think I need to express that moment. A culmination of everything we've seen. But even through all that, Todd didn't tear up, showing how strong he is despite the heartbreak. We have another song, of course. Goodbye May Seem Forever. Wow, it's sad. No other words to describe it. It has such a slow melody accompanied by that harmonica we've heard throughout the whole movie. That's something I forgot to mention actually, that ever-present sound of the harmonica is another great characteristic of this movie. Okay, so Todd's away from his home and has been thrust into this new environment with no experience. Now, how is he going to handle all of this? As Todd struggles to adapt in his new surroundings, he encounters a few other animals that are of the wild breed. He meets a badger who isn't too friendly and doesn't allow him into his burrow, but he does meet a porcupine that is friendly and allows him to stay with him. Meanwhile, Amos and Copper watch Tweed return from the forest, putting the pieces together of what she's done. Bent on revenge, Amos shows Copper a bear trap which they'll use to catch Todd. A rainstorm falling forces Todd into shelter under a tree, now that he's unable to snuggle by the fire. The tree doesn't offer much though because he still gets drenched by a squirrel jumping onto the branches and causing the water to fall on him. The game preserve makes Todd feel alone more so, since he watches a duck paddle away with her ducklings and a pheasant sprint across with her babies. They're all comfortable in this environment while he isn't. So are the raccoons hiding in the rocks that Todd comes across when looking for shelter. He also comes across a badger named Mr. Digger, who doesn't take kindly to Todd rudely barging into his burrow. But poor Todd wasn't rude on purpose, he was just looking for somewhere to keep dry. While the badger is rude and unaccepting of Todd, a porcupine is. One that's been watching Todd since he arrived and understanding his struggle, he kindly invites him to stay with him, and Todd accepts this hospitality. There are still nice personalities out in the woods. Meanwhile, Tweed has returned home, the rain having not yet reached the farm, but is getting ever closer. The winds have already arrived. Amos is there coldly watching her return. She's been out into the game preserve. Why would she need to go there? Amos already knows why. Tweed listened to his words the night before and has gone and done what he bluntly indirectly told her to do. With Tweed now out of the way and Todd out in the wild, Amos and his sidekick Copper can now plan their revenge as the leaves blow around them. Back in Amos's house, Chief survived the accident with the train but ended up with a broken leg. He's out of commission so he can't take revenge on Todd, but Amos and Copper will do it on behalf of him. Chief makes the best of the bad situation. He can snuggle up in the warmth with good food and a soft pillow. That definitely beats sleeping outside in his barrel, which still hasn't been repaired by the way. Chief is perfectly fine and will heal well, but he can't help but exaggerate his injury, because this will mean that Amos will cater to him. However, Amos has become aware and annoyed with Chief's constant wailing, ignoring his phoned-in cries of pain and even threatening to break his other leg rather sadistically when Chief came stropping into the room, only lit by the fireplace, because Amos and Copper were so mean that they didn't even ask how Chief was feeling. Amos has had enough. Chief's done this far too many times. He's got a job to do. Chief will be okay, so he's not worried about that. Amos lays out his plan to Copper. He'll use a new weapon to catch Todd. A hard steel bear trap that will clamp on Todd when he unknowingly steps on one. If those teeth can snap a stick, it's no doubt going to pierce through the fur and skin of Todd and grapple onto his shin bone. Amos is truly bent on revenge. After all, Chief was hurt badly because of Todd, and he ended up with a broken leg. So why not return the favour, an eye for an eye, by injuring Todd's leg all the same? Alright, so there isn't a whole lot to analyse here, but I do have a fair few things to talk about. First of all, I love the stormy atmosphere of the woods, especially when it begins to start raining, and that brief shot of the top of the trees with the lightning flashing. That's beautiful. We have some new characters to discuss too, even though they're only minor. Mr. Digger the Badger is that typical rude grump, not much else to say honestly. John McIntyre does a great job getting the gruffness across. He was a good first character for Todd to interact with as he struggles in this new environment. He's not too mean-spirited, so it's easy to form more of a positive opinion about him. In fact, his character is a great parallel for the Porcupine, who sadly is unnamed. He's friendly to Todd and invites him to stay at his place of rest, the complete opposite of Mr. Digger. Again, nothing else to say really, he's just a nice character. And yes, if you have seen the movie, the Porcupine is voiced by John Fiedler, who of course is best known for voicing Piglet in Winnie the Pooh. Another Pooh voice actor, how about that? He does the exact same voice and even manages to sneak in Piglet's trademark stutter as well. That's pretty cool, and cute if I can add to that.
I've been watching you, sir. You can stay with me if you want to. Come with me. And shan't be able to do tomorrow, so I suppose I really ought to go back and do it now.
There's also a little bit I want to touch on in the sequence where Todd is sheltering under the tree. The animals that he watches are all recycled pieces of animation from previous Disney movies. The ducks going into the pond, the pheasant running along with its babies, and the squirrel hopping along the rocks. All those are taken from Bambi, which came out almost exactly 40 years before The Fox and the Hound. In particular, they're from the Little April shower sequence, which is a song and scene I very much like. I know the recycled animation is used to cut corners and save time, and thankfully The Fox and the Hound doesn't have a lot of it as, say, something like Robin Hood, meaning it's not glaringly noticeable. It's almost like a little Easter egg in some ways, a throwback to previous movies that Disney made. In fact, these scenes work perfectly since both Bambi and The Fox and the Hound have scenes in the forest. If they had forest animals already there in the archives, why not put them to use again for a brief sequence? I like it, it's really cool. Those aren't the only recycled parts though. The squirrel that runs and jumps along the tree and splashes Todd with water, that's taken from The Sword in the Stone, and in the context of that movie, the squirrel is a magic form taken on by the protagonist Arthur. The King of England is in The Fox and the Hound. Crazy. Also, I'm not calling him Wart, and by the way, don't expect a Sword in the Stone video on this channel. I'm sorry everyone. The last part with Tweed arriving home in the storm while Amos and Copper watch in the wind is so ominous, like we know something is going to happen. Very awesome visual. And sadly, this is also the end of Tweed's role in the story. She does appear again, but we'll get to that later. Someone else whose role ends here is Chief, and that's the perfect time for me to discuss the controversy around his injury. There was a disagreement during production about having Chief die after being hit by the train, which does make more sense honestly, but some of the people thought it was too dark for children. I don't know why they thought that, considering they have used the concept of dying in previous Disney movies and would do so years down the line, but that's just what ended up happening. However, I don't think his death turned injury really hurts the movie in any way. As I just said, Chief has no further role in the story. This one moment he has doesn't affect the scene at all. You could literally cut out all his moments and nothing would change. Speaking of...
We'll get him. We'll get him. Copper, look at here.
So Chief not meeting his demise doesn't hurt the story all that much, if at all, in my opinion at least. It would have been a bit better if they'd gone down that route, especially since he does actually die in the original novel, which I have and am currently reading at the time of recording. But I'm not fussed about the decision to go down the more light-hearted route and keeping him around. It does get some funny moments here. I will never not laugh at his wailing when Amos and Copper come in only for him to be ignored, and then Amos threatening to break his other leg. That sounded sadistic and really shows how strong his anger is, especially since he's going to the lengths of using bear traps in part of his revenge on Todd. Man. Okay, a fair amount of thoughts provided there, more than the analysis. Is that the first time in this series that the thoughts went longer than the analysis? I don't know, someone in the comments tell me. Things are now getting very heated and intense in this movie, and the nerves of the viewer are certainly at an all-time high I would expect.